Hi, I'm Marvin and welcome to another episode of Marvin's Motor City Garage. Today we're going to continue inspecting this Survivor 65 GTO, and today we're going to talk about the undercarriage. So we'll just start in the back. So as you can see, the gas tank is galvanized. The straps are black. There's a little stamping there with an M. That's for Marvin's Motor City. No, I'm just kidding. But this just gives you an idea of what a GTO that's never seen the rain or snow in 60 years, what it would look like underneath. You can see the frame is still black. You can see the gray phosphate on the bumper bolts. And the factory undercoated the inside of the trunk drops. So this is all undercoating from the factory. About halfway into the gas tank is where they stopped. This is the common area that all GTOs rust out, is this rear brace, and you can see it's perfect on this car. And here's the original body mounts, barely even cracked, with the original blue paint still on them. You can see the rear end differential has a coat of like a black tar looking paint. That's factory. And you can see how they oversprayed it onto the brake line. You could see how the shocks were painted with that black paint. But if you look up at the top, you can see they're still gray. You can see the remnant of the shock tag. Let's take a look at the gas tank. Here's your original pinch style fuel clamp with squared off ends. And you can see the hose says Swan Gas stamped on the hose from the factory. And you can see how the floor pan is a combination of body color and black. It's not just painted black, it's a kind of a combination of overspray. And this is a Pontiac built car made at the end of the year, so we could safely say this is what they were putting out. You could see the frame, how they dipped the frame in paint, and you could see how there's literally just drips of paint. And this is still tacky after 60 years. I could put my fingernail in that. Isn't that interesting? You could see the red overspray up in this area. And notice how the springs are rusty. That's because they were put in bare metal. So there's no paint on them at all. So let's keep moving down the line. By the way, the car has a Gardner exhaust. So that was replaced, unfortunately, by the previous owner. So you could see the floor pan, the red overspray, the blue bushings, the cross members painted black. And this car is a 2-speed ST300, so there's your trans. And your brake lines, the detail and all that. We'll move up front here. You can see how none of this was painted from the factory. This was all just left bare metal. It looks like there was a green paint dab up on the back of that front backing plate there. Take a look at the front suspension. So this was all blacked out just like the rear end from the factory. So these were all put on bare metal, and then they would just make a pass with black paint and just black out this front suspension. So that's why some of this stuff is just half painted. You could see the backing plate on this side, same deal. There's no black paint. So that was bare metal from the factory. You can see there's your spiral shocks in the front that are gray. Riveted ball joints, of course, because the cars never had ball joints put in it. You can see how the factory bent the cotter pin, stuck one through and bent that over. Same thing with all these. Now these are hammered down on the center link. but then these are folded over. Look at the ball joint boots, they're not even torn. 40,000 original miles. Look at how clean the inside of the front fender wells are. There's hardly any surface rust. Very little surface rust. It's all original paint. Looks like there's some kind of white paint dab right there in the frame. Here we could take a look at this radiator hose. You could see how the factory put the clamp upside down, because that was put on in the pit when they were assembling the car. That's why the clamp faces down. And if you come around this way, take a look at the hose, you could see these factory blue lines. That's part of an original hose, and this is the original 1965 radiator hose. It's unbelievable, but that is the original hose. And again, you can see how blue that engine paint is. It is so blue compared to what's in a spray can today. And that's all original paint on there. Nothing's been touched up. You can see the motor mounts are just bare metal. They got a lock washer and a gray phosphate bolt there holding them in. And there's your fuel hose with the pinch clamps again. And there's a remnant of a shock tag on this side. You can barely see it, but it's right there. But just overall, a really nice car. You're just not going to see an unrestored car that looks this good underneath. It's never been in the rain, very little rain, and no snow. The car was in Florida for the first 8 years of its life, and then it went to Indiana and basically was never driven again. I think it was in a heated garage since day one, because obviously the car is just unbelievably clean. There's one thing back here I want to look at. So on this rear bumper from the factory, you have these bumper jack holes, and the factory actually put a piece of tape over the bumper jack hole, and there's a real indication this car's never been apart. There's the tape. It's only on one side, it's not on the other side. But Scott Tiemann actually showed you that. He pointed that out. But look at the chrome. I mean, that's original chrome. That bumper's never been re-chromed. Bumper's never been off. Here's your original gas door. You can see the red overspray up in there on the rear body panel. Let's take a look at the quarter lips. So this is something a lot of people don't know, what the bottom of a quarter panel is supposed to look like that's never had work done. You see this pinch weld, all these spot weld marks. Whenever you're looking at a GTO and you could feel all these original spot weld marks and see the stamping lines in the quarter panel, all that goes away as soon as you start doing body work. As soon as you put coats of primer on the car, you lose all the stamping, all these stamping lines. And when people replace a quarter panel, very rarely do they spot weld it on. So that's how you know this car is an original car. It's never had any work done on it before. And you can take a look at the other side, and it's going to be the same way. Spot welds, stamping marks. That's a good way to tell that a car is original paint. If you could see those stamping marks, you know the car's original paint. Very little road rash for 40,000 miles. And here's your rear wheelhouse. A lot of people wonder what this is supposed to look like right here, because when you buy a reproduction wheelhouse, they don't give you this piece. You have to make this on your own. And a lot of people don't know to do that. So there's a good shot of what that's supposed to look like. You can see the factory undercoated the rear wheel well. And there's your pinch welds with overspray on them. I mean, absolutely no rust on this car whatsoever. Corners of the doors, bottoms of the fenders, perfect. Here are your original wheels. 775/14 white walls, original hubcaps. Original front bumper. So I hope all this information helps. And I'd like to thank you again for joining us at Marvin's Motor City Garage. Please leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you think about the car. Thank you.